Hey all, thank you so much for joining the room. As we start coming in, I know we've kind of been chatting, but if y'all want to drop just your name in the chat and what topics you're interested in, and especially for making a change in the community. And you can also come off mute if you're interested in doing that.
Should I go ahead and start?
Let me see.
Should we give him a couple more minutes?
Yeah, maybe a couple more minutes just for anyone who's lost. All right, I think that's everyone, unless someone got really lost.
There are some technical problems in the main room, and Katie is assigning the people to each room.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you, Vanessa, for the insight. So we'll give them a few more minutes. Yeah, in the meantime, for anyone who just entered or didn't hear me, feel free to write your name and what you're interested in, specifically like topics about related to community change that you're interested in. We'd love to know, just so that we make sure everything's relevant to y'all in the future. And to introduce myself, I guess I just started talking. My name is Helen. I use they, them pronouns, and I work at Greenwood as the food security community mobilizer. And the reason I'm talking right now is because I'll be the facilitator today for Sebastian's room. So just kind of welcoming everyone while we wait for folks to enter. All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Hopefully folks will start trickling in a second, but I wanted to formally introduce Sebastian, and I know Jessica did read the biographies already, so I won't do that again. But Sebastian, thank you so much for leading this breakout room, and I'm also very excited to hear more about you. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Ellen. So I think I know most of you guys here. My name is Sebastian. I'm always kind of weirded out whenever I'm asked to speak at these events, because I think I consider myself a man of very few words, and I like to act more than I like to speak. But I want to begin with a little bit of background on sort of the values that I work with personally and that sort of intersect with the PASOS program and the PASOS model. Of course, we work a lot on equity, on health equity, on making sure that all of our patients and everyone in the community has access to the services that they need. And we do this by establishing trust, not only with our patients and our Spanish-speaking community, but within our organization, Prisma Health. We know that Prisma Health is the largest healthcare provider in the state of South Carolina, and we're pretty much everywhere. So in that, we pride ourselves in the concept of compromiso. So that is a word that I use a lot when I'm interacting with my patients and with staff members and individuals from other organizations. I typically approach our interactions as I'm compromising myself to the compromiso that I have is to work on this specific piece of need or this need that it. Sorry, sometimes I lose track of, of what I'm saying because of the language barrier. But so the compromiso. Sorry. So we're talking about the values and the compromiso that I have with my patients and with the staff members. Also, one of the other values is family. The way we treat our patients as family and the way we conceptualize our work with the organizations that we work with. The education piece is also one of the values that will be coming back and forth on this talk because it's what we work on as PASOS is on health education, access to care, and advocacy, which is one of the things that we're mainly focused here. Now, we achieve that by educating our patients and staff members, also community integration. So PASOS works with the community health model, community health worker model, the promotores. Now, one of the goals, some of the goals that PASOS and PASOS Greenville has is to improve the health of children, adults, individuals in the whole spectrum of human development. We have the fortune to interact with our pregnant moms, and once they deliver, we get a chance to connect them to a pediatrician and see how their children develop and educate them on how to work with their children, how to talk to them in Spanish. We advocate with parents to talk to their children in Spanish. And personally, I have chosen to not to speak English to kids. Most of the Latino kids that I encounter, I speak to them in Spanish. Whenever they reply to me in English, I make it a point to say, no, I need you to respond to me in English. And their parents sort of look at me like, okay, why are you telling my child this? So that's an opportunity for me to educate the parents on looking ahead and sort of bring awareness that the language and the culture is very important because I see a lot of kids that grow up in the States and they lose their language, they lose the culture, which, you can have different opinions on that, but I definitely see the children that grow up in this country and learn the language, grow up to be more marketable, to have jobs, and to be in positions where they can make more change. So a little bit of history on me. So I came to the States when I was 13 years old, and I had to learn the language. My parents, of course, had to enter the healthcare system. And 20 years ago, Greenville didn't have the same network of individuals like this to empower families to grow up and to live a more successful life in the United States. So going back to the CHW model, the community health worker model, the promotores model. So we work on nurturing those individuals in the community that are embedded in churches, that are embedded in community health centers, to work with them and sort of teach them how to work with the community, how to be a better point of access to the healthcare system. We also work on that leadership. We have a group of promotores that we're constantly in contact with. We have a WhatsApp chat where information is communicated through there. Vanessa is part of that group, and she can tell you that we're constantly sharing information that is valuable and that these community health workers can share with their network. because they are embedded in churches. They're embedded in these community health centers that, they get to interact with a lot of individuals. And why do we do this? Because these individuals that are leaders in their community share the same experiences, share the same culture. It may not be the same culture, but interacting with individuals from Guatemala, from El Salvador, from Venezuela, from Colombia, from Chile, you get to interact with a lot of individuals. The sayings are different, so we get to learn a lot and to make the members of the community more welcomed. We also get to share those resources that are available, and we get to work with our staff members on those techniques of how to reach our community. For example, we were approached by Prisma Health on how we can reach the Spanish-speaking community on educating them about vaccine, about testing with COVID-19. So one of the ideas that came up was, why don't we go on the radio and talk to and provide information that is coming from a trusted source. So we have been able to do that. Guillermo and I have gone on the radio every Wednesday after the one of the sports programs, and we can tailor our message to men. A lot of times when I interact with families, it's mostly with mom. The head of the family is out working, and we don't get a chance to interact with men a lot. Another important point that we have worked on is going into the community where some of those individuals in the community that we don't reach, we can reach them. For example, we're working on a project with Copa, which is a soccer complex where a lot of the Latino men go and play soccer. So we get a chance to interact with them in an environment where they feel comfortable and where we feel comfortable approaching them and having these conversations with them. Also, a lot of times we have to be knowledgeable about immigrant rights and how to approach this, and establishing the network of, for example, with the Hispanic Alliance, with the legal team, whenever something comes up, legal-wise, we have a group of attorneys and individuals that we can go to get accurate information, not only in Greenville, but also at a statewide level. For example, Appleseed, we get a chance to, if a situation comes up where we don't know the answer to, we can always reach out to them. Another goal for Pasos is the knowledge that we have about conflict resolution or our own experience with being in this country and learning the language and learning the culture. So I think the education piece is very important. Also, empowering families, fortalecer. It's a big concept that I work on. Fortalecer our families and empowering them to be more successful. And that goes hand in hand with the community integration. Not sure if you guys have any questions at this point. Helen?
How long have you been with Prisma, Sebastian?
So I've been with Prisma Health since 2011. I started my work with Prisma Health under the patient access and revenue cycle department. So I've gotten a chance to learn that side of the delivery model to better help our patients in understanding how to deal with their everyone has a medical bill. And sometimes these bills go up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this itself, it creates a level of anxiety and fear that a lot of times prevents our community from seeking the services that they need, because they feel like, okay, if I owe this amount of money, immigration is going to be called or the police is going to come knocking on my door. So helping those patients and community members understand how the process work in terms of billing. That's a big piece that we work on, and providing the support to organizations. So I sort of conceptualize my work as internal and external. So internal meaning Pasos and Prisma Health, and providing the support to all departments of Prisma Health, whether it be developmental and nephrology or mental health or you name it. We've come across it. So it's really good to learn about these processes and to be able to bring that knowledge to the community.
And how have you found acceptance of and trust in vaccine? Is there a lot of vaccine hesitancy among the population?
Yeah, so we've seen the percentages of Latino individuals being vaccinated. They're very low compared to the overall population, and I think some of that has to do with how it's reported, how information is being captured about ethnicity or race. It could be some of that, but we also work on the education piece on working on those pieces of knowledge that come to our patients' ears or their eyes through Facebook or through social media, and giving them accurate information. And yes, there is a lot of hesitancy, and I've sat down on the phone with one individual for over 15 minutes, talking to them about, okay, I understand that you've been told that the vaccine is going to have a chip, or that you've heard that the blood clots that were associated with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, they're contagious. They're not contagious. This is not gonna change your DNA. So, and giving that information in Spanish from a trusted source, it's crucial to, the development of their health in this country.
We are, Sebastian, at the clinic now giving vaccines. I don't know if you are aware of that for our patients. It's not general public, but that you're right with that trusted source, when their nurse or their doctor or pharmacist can answer the questions and reassure them. That's a little bit more successful. We've actually seen a little better response in the Hispanic patients than we have in some of the African American communities, who are very resistant based on history. But we are doing that now. My question was, though, going back to community work and community health worker in particular, this 2020 has been such a wonky year. And the fact that community health workers in the promontory is really based on a relationship and a communication and a one-on-one, the COVID restrictions seem like that has been quite a barrier. I know, many have, Access Health has not been on site at our place. The St. Francis team has been working remote. It's just not been able to do what you do in the way you do. What have you found this last year, and what do you think moving forward to kind of get back on track for that relationship building? Because that really is where the trust is.
Yeah, it's been really hard to work the way we were working before, because we're having to use different tools to communicate with our patients. We're not able to see them face to face and help them complete a form. So being on the phone a lot and having a lot of patience with these patients, it's very important.
I want to share my part of the story, because we at the Hispanic Alliance and Live for Greenwood have this program, Canasta Básica, and the compromiso that Sebastian are saying is like to creating that trust in times of in bad times, in times of uncertainty, because when the people need the baskets of food, when the people need some resource, when the people need anything, always Sebastian are there for them. So it's like this take time, but also takes a lot of compromiso to do the work that they are doing. And I'm so happy to be with his team, and also to be with the promotores, because they are doing a great work on the community, even that is text messages, WhatsApp messages, but this continued communication, even in the virtual world, I think that makes a difference during this time.
Yeah, definitely. And having that network of individuals say, if I can't be somewhere, I can always get in touch with one of our promotores, even though they're not being paid for their work. They still have that compromiso with the community, because they've gone through the training and they've learned the value of being available for the communities. I've called some of our promotores to say, hey, I have this family that it has expressed food insecurity and they don't have anything to eat. Can you go by the Hispanic Alliance and meet with Deborah, or and deliver that to these patients? That's very important.
Hey, can I jump in?
Yeah, of course.
So my name's Ines Alvarez, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Molina Healthcare. I just want to share with you, Sebastian, a little of my history. I've been with Molina now 7 years. I came from Ohio. I moved down here 5 years ago, but I was born in Anderson, South Carolina, many moons ago. My parents are immigrants from Eastern Europe. But the story I want to share with you, way back 40s, I'm really dating myself. I'm the senior in the group here. But 40 some years ago, I had despite my name, everyone thinks I have a Hispanic background, but I don't. My parents are from Latvia. I married a Hispanic man, but when I was like 26, I had the opportunity to go to Colombia to give measles vaccinations with a program called Amigos de las Americas. So I was there for 1 month. My Spanish, I spoke fluent Spanish by the end of my 1 month there. But what happened was a priest in a village had picked up a bottle of the vaccine, and the word sterile was on the vaccine. I'm not sure if it's still on bottles or not, but USP sterile, I think, was the labeling. But this priest thought that we were down there to sterilize the population in all of South America, Central America, South America. So the rumor spread all over about this group of Americans going down to sterilize the population. So trust. Wow, that was huge. I mean, they did not trust us for anything. So my month in Colombia, we were able to immunize a few people, but what happened was, the trust just wasn't there. They did not trust us to give that vaccine. So we ended up doing more educating and just getting to know the people and trying to build those relationships with the community. And try to gain that trust. So, as far I see the correlation now with the COVID vaccine, that, a lot of people just don't trust the process. So, like I said, this is something I experienced 40 some years ago, and here it is still. So I think, trust is big. Trying to build those relationships in the community is so important.
Yeah, and definitely whenever I talk to patients that are hesitant to get the vaccine, I tell them, my first dose was in 2020. As soon as it became available, I went ahead and did it, and I made sure that, it was in 2020 when it was first available. And they're like, okay, so you didn't have any side effects or anything. So I've been able to educate patients about that. And that trust is very important because there's a lot of anxiety in our community. These last 4 years have been pretty traumatic, I would say, to our community because the discrimination, the powerlessness to instill change in our community. There's always the language barrier. A big part of what we work on is that access to care and insurance wise. A lot of patients think that because they don't have any insurance or coverage, they can't access the services that they need. They think that
And that's not true.
that is not true. We have such a great network in Greenville, even though at a statewide level, we don't have the level of support that we would like or that other states have. And I hate to tell some of my patients who need access to specific services that they could receive at another state, hey, listen, you'd be better off moving to another state because in South Carolina, your health is going to decrease. If you move to, say, North Carolina, you'll have better access to the care that you need. And unfortunately, that's the reality. And that's when we put on our advocacy hats and say, okay, this is a big problem that people are having to move away from their support network to improve their health or at least have access to some of those services. So what do we do then? Okay, let's look at the issue and let's look at ways to alleviate or at least get the conversation going about that. And I can think of an example with our patients who have renal failure. Unfortunately, in this state, individuals who are undocumented and have renal failure that need a transplant cannot access even outpatient dialysis treatment. They have to show up in the emergency room at 5 a.m. in the morning, wait until there is a spot in the inpatient dialysis unit, and then they're out of the hospital at 5, 6 p.m. So spending a whole day in the hospital where if you lived in another state, you could be in and out of the dialysis center in 2-3 hours. That's a big toll on our sort of psyche or our, I don't know how to say, it's definitely the powerlessness. You can definitely feel it, but it's being aware that things are moving in the right direction. And I think with the work that we're doing, it's very important to help these patients and to help everyone be healthier, because that's one of our goals, to improve the health of South Carolinians.
You know, the hospital in the ED is the least cost-effective site to do dialysis. You would think the dollars and cents would make the argument for you that a change needs to occur because it's so costly in that setting.
It is, and I've been involved with a group of patients who are going through dialysis at the emergency room, and then we transitioned to an outpatient dialysis clinic, and we did the cost analysis, and we've presented this to the Health and Human Services Department, along with compiling data from the Hospital Association on different hospitals and the amount of money that they spent on treating these patients at the emergency room as opposed to treating them at an outpatient facility. The conversation sort of stopped because of COVID, but hopefully with the amount of dollars that are going into healthcare organizations, into states, hopefully this will be a conversation that will be picked up again.
Any other questions? Hopefully y'all can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Awesome. Any other questions? Just want to make sure we jump in. Oh, go ahead.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to share that I'm the executive director of the American Red Cross, and We do have one bilingual staff person at our office. Normally, our office is, we're all virtual right now, and we're providing a lot of our services virtually. But we struggle to find native Spanish speakers to join us. More than 90% of the work that the Red Cross does is done by volunteers. The staff is a very small part of it, but we do have a very robust training and certification process in a lot of different areas. Some of it is learning how to be a disaster responder. And here in South Carolina, in the upstate anyway, the majority of what we would call a disaster is a home fire. So we need people to help respond to when the fire department comes out, they'll call the Red Cross. And then in pre-COVID days, we would send a team of 2 volunteers out to go assist the families in recovering things like medication, finding a temporary place to stay. We provide direct client assistance on a like a debit card. So, you know, those services are hard to provide to non-English speaking families. We also have a whole prevention side. So we talk about building family resiliency. And part of that is preventing home fires or learning how to have an emergency kit or an escape plan or things like that. So we canvass neighborhoods, again, with volunteers and the fire department, and we actually install smoke detectors. And we've been in homes that have 8, 9, 10 people living in them and not one working smoke detector in the whole house. In the upstate, there's on average about 4 home fires per day. So it's a real problem. Yeah, in South Carolina, we spent about $1.3 million just in direct financial assistance in helping people in that immediate need that they have. So really, we could use help with people who want to volunteer with us. I've been on Marta Lucia's radio show before, and well aware of the Hispanic Alliance, but we really that's my interest is helping recruit more Spanish-speaking volunteers. Oh, another thing I wanted to say is we sent people to the southern border recently. Nationally, we had over 500 volunteers go and help with the unaccompanied minor shelters. So we helped, you know, supervise and feed and shelter unaccompanied minors. But we were able to send probably a third of those that had Spanish speaking skills. So you can imagine in a situation like that, it would be much more beneficial to that population if we had Spanish speaking volunteers.
I think one of the barriers that I've encountered with volunteer work and individuals coming up to me and saying that they want to volunteer is the fear that they're undocumented and that they're not able to join these organizations. Is this a barrier?
No, please tell them. The Red Cross has, we've been around for 140 years, and from the very beginning till right now, we have what are called our founding principles, and it's impartiality, neutrality, humanity, compassion. There's 7 of them. If I took a quiz, I might be able to get 6 out of the 7. But I mean, that is part of our culture, is to never deny anyone services or to deny anyone the opportunity to volunteer based on country of origin, legal status, none of that.
And to put it into context, the latest numbers on the amount of Latino individuals or Hispanic individuals in South Carolina is about 45 to 50,000 individuals. There's a huge Colombian community here. There's a huge Mexican community. It's a huge Guatemalan community. Even there's a huge Russian community and Ukrainian community here. And a lot of these individuals that immigrate to South Carolina are individuals that come on a visa. And these are individuals that do not have a 1st or 2nd grade level education. These are individuals that are PhD level, graduate degrees. And these are individuals that actually do reach out to us and that are some of our volunteers. So I think that's a good idea to develop a network of volunteers. That may be a good idea to present to the Hispanic Alliance. Because I'm
Yeah.
sure you guys do get the calls from individuals in the community that want to be involved and are involved, and you guys are able to.
Yeah.
Hey, Lisa, I have a question. Do you have access to the fire alarms?
Yes, we provide them for free. We don't.
Okay, so you do have them. Okay, you just need people to install.
Yeah, and actually, here our volunteers don't install them. They provide the education that goes along with it. So a fire escape plan and all those things, and we go along with the fire department, and the fire department is actually the ones that install.
Right. Okay.
And that's one thing that we've been able to route some of our families that are having these type of issues on creating an evacuation plan, and we've relied on Safe Kids to provide this education to some of our families.
Great, yeah. That was where I started. I worked at Safe Kids, yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I'd love to get a spot on Hispanic Alliance's agenda, and we can present to what Red Cross can do and how much we would love to have more involvement.
Something I was curious about as well, and this might be what y'all just mentioned, Safe Kids, but I was curious how old you have to be to do that type of volunteer work.
Are you talking about Safe Kids?
Your volunteer work.
Oh, in Red Cross. We have some youth. We have high school and college level youth volunteer opportunities. Those are mostly around prevention activities with younger kids, that kind of thing. So we have Red Cross clubs. I would say the majority of our volunteer work is 18 and older. And the vast majority of our volunteers are retirees. They're 65 and older, and they're going strong. I mean, they do not slow down. They're lifting heavy things. They're loading and unloading trucks and water bottles and things like that. But we really could use younger volunteers for as the older ones age out.
Can I just put in a quick plug here? Melina is working with Grove Elementary School. We're doing my first event for forever, it seems like. But we are doing a drive-through event with Grove Elementary School. Molina is providing backpacks of books and flashcards and other activities. So I know Diana Curley is the parent coordinator at Grove Elementary. If there is any kind of literature or information that you would like for us to include in the bags, we would certainly, and if you have it in Spanish, of course, we would love to include that in the bags. So if you have that, let me know.
Very good. Thank you, Ines.
Yeah.
I have just a general comment. Sebastian, what do you think the general temperature in the undocumented community is right now? You mentioned the last 4 years, and it has been very tentative and very politicized. Is there still that level of fear or hesitation in reaching out even to social services like Red Cross or the Free Clinic that do not discriminate against undocumented, or is there still a high level of hesitation?
I think it may not be even the level of hesitation, maybe the access to the knowledge that these resources are available. So the more community health workers and individuals that are bilingual, bicultural in the community to provide the information to the community rises, the level of access is going to rise. What I've noticed from the undocumented community in terms of anxiety levels, I feel like it's gone down quite a bit, and our families feel more trustworthy of organizations as a whole because they've seen the level of assistance that these organizations, for example, United Way or PASOS or the Hispanic Alliance have brought to the community in these times of need. I think the level of trust has definitely increased most of the last 4 years.
That's reassuring to hear. I think one of the challenges we face at the clinic, because we do require eligibility information that is interpreted and seen as limitation, restriction, exclusion, and potentially reporting. And that's not the case. I mean, they do have to be eligible. They have to show they live here and what that they meet our criteria, but not, we don't require citizenship.
And one of the big barriers is documenting where the income comes from.
Right.
They may have an employer, they may have a steady income, but they can't get their employer to give them a letter of employment, and they don't get paycheck stubs. So a lot of times accessing these services that are available, the barrier is meeting those document thresholds, I'd say.
So it's the other documents, not necessarily the
Right.
citizenship documents.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish we didn't have to do that, but in order to provide what we do,
Yeah,
we do.
and it's educating patients about the importance of that and the rationale behind it, and explaining to a patient when you refer them to the free clinic or to Access Health or to New Horizon is the reason why you have to provide some type of proof of income is because these organizations receive funding from individuals who want to see that the individuals that are being helped by their dollars are individuals that do need the assistance, and that is documented.
Yeah, and that's safe and protected. I think that's not generally well communicated, that is safe information.
Yeah. Yeah, the hesitation from the employers, and I myself, whenever I refer a patient somewhere that needs to obtain proof of income is, listen, if you go to your employer and they have any type of hesitation on giving you this proof of income, let me know. And I've gotten on the phone with so many employers, individuals that get contracts from big construction companies, and they say, well, I'm going to employ 5 individuals to do this work, but I can't give you a letter of income because I myself, I'm undocumented. I'm just getting this contract and I'm not going to get in trouble for this. So I've gotten on the phone with employers and say, listen, this is just for documenting. The police are not going to come looking for you. This is for the health of your employee. The healthier he or she is, the more productive he or she is going to be.
Awesome. It's been such a great conversation. I didn't even have to do any work. So thank you. Y'all did it for me. No, I learned so much through everything y'all discussed. And just to kind of wrap up, I know we have about 5 minutes left. So I just wanted to kind of wrap things up and really ask one last question. And I think we kind of touched on this earlier. But something that I'm really curious about is, when we are talking about like people feeling anxiety towards getting these types of procedures done, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's the measles shot, as someone mentioned earlier, how do we kind of reconcile this idea that, in the past, people have been, unfortunately, discriminated medically and, for example, for sterilizations or things like this that have impacted specific marginalized communities, while also understanding that, something like a vaccine is really important for someone to have. And I just kind of wanted to ask your opinion about that and how you reconcile that in your work and try to really work with community members on that.
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, how do I reconcile the the need for these services to be provided and the hesitation of individuals to receive these services. I think I like to put things into context for staff members and for patients on where we've been in the past and where we are now. I tell them that, you know, we have a great network of organizations working to help you be healthier. This is going to help you be healthier for your family, and that piece of education and empowering families on, yes, you can do this. You can call your pediatrician's office and make an appointment. Don't be scared, because you know they have individuals that speak Spanish, and advocating to these organizations that we need to hire more Spanish-speaking individuals. I make it a point to call organizations that I may refer patients to make sure that there's a message in Spanish when someone calls. If there isn't, then whenever I get to someone on the phone, I say, hey man, I turn into a Karen. Let me speak to someone in your office that can pass a message along to someone. Hey, why don't we have this message in Spanish? Because the individuals that are receiving services from you are not able to book appointments, are not able to get in touch with a provider. So that's really important.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing is that the way to really reconcile that is by showing that there are efforts to bring like Latinx, Hispanic people into, you know, medical spaces, and really making sure that there is space for them, that we're making that space for them, where there's language justice, where things are in English and in Spanish and in other languages, where their concerns are being answered. That's amazing to hear.
Yeah, definitely. That's when we put our advocacy hat on. Definitely.
Awesome.
And there is a lot of focus on trying to address those disparities and those health inequities that have existed for a long time in the Latino community and in the African American community, because there have been dramatic health disparities. But I think, if anything, in the last couple of years, there is more of an emphasis on equity and trying to remove some of those barriers. And a lot of those are the social determinants that community health workers and the whole network of reaching out and developing that trust, that's what it's addressing, is a lot of those different barriers to try to even the score a bit.
I agree, and I think that we're moving in the right direction. I'm an optimist, and I think that where we've been and where we are now is definitely a big improvement. There's still a lot of work to be done. I like to think of it as like the violence that the humanity has faced for a long time. We may think that things are worse, but things are actually better. We live in one of the most peaceful times in the history of humanity, right? This is supported by data and a lot of things. So what we may see, what's in front of us may not be the reality, because behind it, there's a lot of work and a lot of individuals that are doing great things.
Well, I definitely want to close on that very positive note. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for leading this and for sharing all of your insights with us. And thank you, everyone, for being so curious about everything and asking so many questions. I really enjoyed the discussion, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up in the main room. So I'll see y'all.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys being very engaged.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Bueno, ¿cómo me voy a ir? Ah, no problem.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, will you let me know when it looks like most people are back?
Absolutely.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope y'all had as much fun and got as much out of your breakout room as I did. I was in a small but mighty group that had Caroline and Ferris and Lawson Welty, who's going to be speaking at our next event. So I felt like I was fully in a master's class. Katie, thank you for dropping that note about an upcoming event, The Color of Law, that's coming up next. I think it's next week, but it is in the chat. If you haven't registered, it's promising to be great. As I just mentioned, there will be a third session with this. I hope that you are energized and excited enough to plan to come back. I hope that you will reach out to some of our fellow community members who you just think absolutely should be here. As you think about coming back next time, we're really hoping that you'll leave that last session with a toolkit that you can really reach into. One of the things that our session, my breakout group, ended with is this work can be hard. It can be extremely tiring. It is a long time between wins. And I don't say that to bring people down. What we hope is that by working together, by leaning on each other, by leaning into our tribe, as Caroline mentioned, that we're getting strength from one another. And when one person is at a low point, we're helping to bring the other up to a high point. And as we move into our third session, we promise to give you even more time with our speakers. We promise to help you build that toolbox so that you have some tools that you can reach to when you are at a low point, or you can have a tool that will help you get even further when you're at a high point. I want to say a huge thank you to Jessica, to Caroline, to Ferris, to Lauren, through Michael, Sebastian, especially for jumping into the last minute with a quick change to a different language, Sebastian. Who am I missing from our speakers? I feel like I'm missing one more. Oh, Adrian. There you are, Adrian. I see you on my screen. Thank you guys for your time tonight. And if from my facilitation team, anything else I'm missing, I think we're good to go. We hope to see you back in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.